This video is on 80's anime, 90's anime, and early 2000s anime. So it's just a yapping video, but it's funny because I was born during the turn of the century. I was born in 1997. So when I was young, I watched pretty much everything that they had on Toonami growing up. I remember they had, what was it, Duel Masters, they had Sailor Moon, they had Yu Yu Hakusho, they had Dragon Ball Z. They had what else did they have? Sometimes they played Pokemon. Pokemon. They played the One Piece, the Four Kids One Piece. They played. I think they played Capture Card Sakura. I think they played that one too. And there was a lot of other shows like Detective Conan. They had the one with the little boy. He's like a kindergartner. I always forget his name. I can't remember, but it was like a really goofy art style, and he used to always be doing weird stuff, and he used to be cussing all the time. Not Oni-chan. What the hell is that show called? Chan-chan or something like that. If you're old like me, you know what that is. But I remember watching that. I remember watching Gundam. What else? Eureka 7. Hack. What else did they have? They had Tenchi Muyo. There was like 5 different versions of that. Gundams, there was like 30 different versions of that. There was like G Gundam. There was the original Gundam. There was Gundam Iron Blood. That one's one of the newer ones, but they had the Big O. I remember Blue Dragon used to come on back in the day. They had Zatch Bell. They had Bakugan later on. I remember that used to come on Cartoon Network. They had Maguzi, which was a cartoon block where they played Naruto, they played Bobobo, and they played Code Lyoko. That mess was fire, bro. I missed that so much. I missed the early Cartoon Network days. Oh my gosh, bro, it was so fire. They had so many anime shows on Cartoon Network. It blew my mind. Like, it was like they had anime shows that would come on Toonami, but they would have anime shows come on Adult Swim. They had anime shows come on Maguzi. And Naruto was like the hugest one next to Pokemon. They used to play Naruto everywhere. They played it on Maguzi, then they played it on normal hours, then they played it on Toonami. They used to play it everywhere. And they still play Shippuden nowadays, bro. You know, my last year of college, they were still playing Shippuden. They were like in the 5 Kage Summit. I think they done now because I remember when I still had cable, they were playing like the early episodes of Boruto, and they were playing like the last like 20 episodes of Naruto on Adult Swim. So it is what it is. But man, when growing up, I used to watch all that stuff. Bobo. It was like any anime or cartoon I can get my hands on, I used to watch, man. And a couple of the first ones that I watched were like Zatch Bell. I remember watching Zatch Bell, and I remember back then, like, kids would carry around the little spell book, but they would put their Yu-Gi-Oh cards in it. I remember that was one of the earliest memories of anime I remember when I was young. But one of the really earliest ones when I was like 6, 7 years old was the original Dragon Ball Z, the first dub of it, the Funimation one. Not the Ocean dub, but the Funimation one, the very first one. I remember the first Dragon Ball Z scene I remember is Imperfect Cell in the city, like sucking up all the humans, bro. That's one of my earliest Dragon Ball Z memories. And I remember eventually they started showing Dragon Ball on Toonami. They like dubbed it after Dragon Ball Z. And I remember when they changed the One Piece dub. Like, I remember watching the 4 Kids one, and then they got to like right before Skypiea. And then I remember like seeing like the next episode, and their voices had changed. And then they started cussing. Like, they started saying stuff like, damn it. They started saying stuff like ass and stuff like that. And I was like, what the hell? I remember being like confused as a kid when they did that. Ooh, Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, Space Dandy, Michigan Hodgkin, Soul Eater, Death Note. You know what's crazy? I used to watch Adult Swim all the time, but I do not remember Death Note being on Adult Swim, but it was on Adult Swim because they have promos of it on YouTube. I'm like, bro, I don't remember watching that on Adult Swim at all, bro. I'm like, bro, I must have missed. It must have been during those years when I didn't have cable that they were playing that. Cause I don't remember that ever being on Adult Swim, bro. But it was on there. There's promos and everything. I do remember Soul Eater being on there, but I think I only caught like 2 or 3 episodes of Soul Eater on Adult Swim. And then I remember they used to play Bleach. But when they played Bleach, they would play the episodes out of order. So it'd be like you watch an episode of Bleach on like a Saturday, it would be like episode like 200. Then you watch it the next Saturday, it would be like episode 20. You'd be like, what the fuck? I remember Bleach was like the only anime where they did that, bro. They used to always do that. It was weird. And then I remember Yu Yu Hakusho, they like changed the time that it came on, and then it started cussing. Like it went from them not cussing at all to all of a sudden Yusuke started saying like bitch and asshole and all types of stuff. And I was like, what the hell? You know, because they used to show the like clean versions, and then out of nowhere they just started showing the uncut versions of like a lot of different shows, man. But this is just part 1. Like, comment, subscribe, follow your boy.